All right. So tell me what you've got on there from what you remember from Dave.
One of the big things that I think he was kind of touching base on was talking about warrant clause. And like I said, I've just got bits and pieces here. I mean, he'd started spitting out cases, and I got maybe the first name on the case. I got like Harris v. blah, Breeze v. Smith, Sacred Right, Lex Onan Scripta.
Lex non. Okay, that's yep. Lex non scripta. Lex non scripta.
Non-written law.
Unwritten law.
And then statutes are, I don't know. The other one is do not yield sovereignty to something that serves them. Maybe officers or something. I don't know. Supreme. He's got a ton of this stuff. He said he's gonna bring or give us. Be able to send to us. He says I got a ton of this stuff. You're gonna love it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I guess he only lives about
I have a book of his.
Yeah?
Where it's all recorded. It's amazing. Amazing.
Excellent.
And so he sold this book for $100 at an event, and I couldn't afford it. And then later, someone gave me one.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it's everything he's relying on. It's another one of those books that you read it and it's like you're just totally energized by even the, the common law as referred to by the lawyers, common law. They say that's the decisions of the Supreme Courts of the states.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're in the corporate mindset and you're really giving your life over to corporate citizenship and you're going to be one of the good citizens of those states, even that common law is very empowering. It's just that you have to, it's just like that ruling or that, remember we've heard honeyed words and moral suasion, and it's only for the one who's really willing to fight that you get your due process rights. And it's if you don't enforce it, you don't have them. So you can be accused of anything, but if you don't know, you're going down.
Right.
And it's all done. It's basically all done by contracting with you. And how easy is it to make an agreement with somebody who knows nothing?
Right.
Real easy to get them to agree. Real easy.
Yeah, it's easy to fill. What is it? It's easy to fool fools than teach them.
Right. Yep. So anyway, so that's what's operating in this. I mean, if you think about this CPS situation, this OCF, whatever, Child Welfare Services, and you look at that differential response report. Differential response report that I sent out to everybody a couple of weeks ago, all it does is it tells how they train their people to get around due process of law. I mean, it's so damning just to see who wrote the report, what it says, how you beat these families out of winning their kids back.
Yep.
And how easy most of the people that we've seen that are involved in these OCS issues, not all, but most, they don't want to rock the boat because they've been threatened, and they think that if they cooperate with these child welfare programs, they're going to get their kids back, but nothing could be further from the truth. The moment they give these welfare agencies, they give them authority over their lives and over their family, they lose everything.
Yeah, I think the way you did it at the Leo's office with Sydney to express exactly what it means, the way you did that notebook, I think that was genius.
Well,
and
it's one of those things that works. People get it. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah,
right.
we can do that. We can do that in front of whoever, if we get a good crowd. Whatever.
Yeah, I think Friday's going to be good. I think we're going to have quite a few people there that we're going to be able to meet and everything. It's good that hopefully everything works good. We'll get into Talkeetna maybe early enough to have some visit time there with Holly before so too.
Did you see anything on what happened with Tammy Wilson? There's a lot that's gone on this last week. I wanted to kind of bring some of that stuff up, but I don't know what you had planned for tonight. Do you have someone calling in?
I think Luke is supposed to be calling in. I'm
actually already here, guys.
Oh, all right, man. Excellent. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Oh, man, doing really good, really good. Cold as hell.
I didn't want to interrupt anyone that was already talking right now.
Oh, no, totally fine, man. Totally fine. How's things down there?
It's a madhouse, brother, to be honest with you. The nice thing is it's only given more energy and invigoration to our cause. I mean, my store is like a political headquarters on election day. I've got volunteers coming here answering my business phone. I've got people handing out flyers. I've got people educating people. They're kind of putting a buffer. For a while there was just a one-man show. I mean, I've only been at this now for little over 5 days, and I've got hundreds of thousands of views and shares, and people are really, really listening to my message, and it's made a huge difference as far as people mobilizing, people uniting, people like who have time or have time off from work are coming in and out of my shop 24/7. I've had Mike Alexander was here for 3 days straight, educating people and showing them what his cause was with the veto coalition and stuff like that, veto proof coalition. And me and Mike made a great video. I'm posting on my 907 Freedom page, which is we just hit 500 followers in less than 36 hours.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
So let me ask the obvious questions. Luke, who are you, where are you, and what's going on?
My name is Luke Howard. If you really want to run down, I made a video kind of letting people fill people in on who I am. If you go to LD Howard and make a friend request, I'll friend you. Or if you want, you can go on to 907 Freedom. It's a Facebook page. And you can get it. I've made, I think, 5 or 6 videos now that kind of give a rundown of what's going on down here. But basically a little bit about me is I'm 40 years old. I'm married. I have 2 kids, 18 and 14, or 18 and 13, almost 14. 18 and 13. I moved up here 3 years ago from Oregon. I was very connected in the Oregon politics, city council and stuff like that. Fought for a lot of gun rights there, was at all the rallies there, pushing stuff, trying to help like Jacoby Group and Jim Jacoby and the guys over there fighting for gun rights in Oregon. And the problem with Oregon was we were reactionaries. We weren't proactive and preemptive. And that's what I'm doing here and now is I've seen the error of our ways there, and that state is lost. It is long too far gone to do anything else with it right now. Right now is the key word. I came up here to kind of start over, and I had a really traumatic injury about 8 years ago, so it was kind of one of those deals, kind of cleaned all the 8 years off the books and start someone new and exciting, and Alaska was that for my family. And so been here for 3 years. About a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, started kind of getting to the political part, and about 10 months ago really got thrust into it. I've been fighting this deal with the borough now for about 10 months about them infringing on our property rights and our shooting rights here. And I was promised many things by the borough mayor, Vern Halter, saying that this would just go away, that of course this won't pass, and of course this isn't going to be an issue, and we're not going to allocate any resources or taxpayer dollars. This thing is just going to die off in the wind. Well, that wasn't entirely true. So they've been backdooring this thing in and hiding it and doing whatever they can to try to infringe on our rights. And I got wind of it, and they poked the bear. I'm a very formidable person. I'm a very easygoing person. I'm easy to talk to. I'm easy to get along with. Most people who've actually met me, generally like me, and like me or you hate me. I'm one of those kind of people. And I told them, I said, you guys, the way you're doing this and the way you're trying to ramrod it and outnumber people and be sneaky about it, I said, you just made an enemy. And I'm not one that loses. I'm very, very, very confident. I'm very proactive, and I don't lose these things. So it's getting big. It's getting really big. So far, we just broke over 1,000 people who are coming to this rally. I had a really good meeting today with the deputy mayor of the borough. We had about an hour and a half meeting. Phenomenal guy, retired colonel, full bird colonel, he with a Ranger tab. Great patriot, great guy. He's doing his job, and I don't fault him for that. And we have to put food on the table. They're supposed to be impartial, and he seemed pretty impartial. You know, he seemed like a really good guy. They got us. They're supplying us with power. They're supplying us with sanitation stuff for all of our people there. We're doing amazing things. I mean, it was a great meeting. It was nice to actually have them meet me, and I gave them my reassurances. There won't be any weird stuff going on. There's not going to be any violence going on. It's going to be a complete peaceful rally, and we're going to let ourselves be heard. I've got 2 different news stations that are planning on being there with their vans covering the event. I've got state senators going to be there. I got state representatives are going to be there. It's going to be huge. I'm excited.
Excellent, man.
This is
do you have I can't log into Facebook.
Okay.
I might have burned some bridges there.
Who hasn't been in Facebook jail?
Yeah, I don't like them and they don't like me, but do you have anything? I'm still on YouTube. Do you have anything on YouTube at all, or BitChute, or
we're getting that set up. Like I said, I've only been at this for about 5.5 days, and it went viral and crazy and tons of popularity. So I've got a really nice lady here who's a social media representative, and that's what she does for a living. She gets information disseminated, so we're starting to get our YouTube page up. I've got people blast this all over Instagram. We're getting out there. Like I said, 5 days we're doing this in breakneck fashion, and a little bit of whiplash, a little bit of growing pains, but we're catching up and we're getting it back out there to where, I mean, 90% of people have come in on this thing. I started this thing a little while ago. We're trying to inform people. No one has heard about this. And so it was one of those deals where just being quiet about it, and hopefully they can sneak it in there, and then it'd be like, oh, well, shoot, they passed. I guess we can give up now. And I'm not letting that happen. I have plan Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo already on the deck for if this doesn't go perfect. I've got other ways to circumvent them and to require it to be a ballotized issue for the next election. The nice thing about that is if it becomes a ballot issue, then with all the attention this has garnered with the pro-Second Amendment guys and the pro-gun rights and pro-property rights guys, our election turnout will be significantly higher. And I made a video telling the people on the assembly, if you don't vote with your constituents, it will be my mission. I will boot you out of there. We will vote you out. I will put someone in there we will put someone in there that's going to be in good faith. Someone who's going to represent us. I mean, right now, this whole state, we're dealing with taxation without representation. We don't have true representation. We have a few people who are honest and we trust, but we don't have full representation for how much we are taxed and all the stuff we have to deal with up here. So,
okay, so now, so your rally it's not a reaction to the Virginia rally, it's a reaction to something the borough's doing quietly?
Absolutely. It has nothing to do with Virginia, even though we stand with all patriots. I knew one of the guys actually follows my page. He flew down to Virginia for that deal. So we do stand with Virginia. We do stand with any other state that is dealing with a straight-up attack on their rights. We stand with anyone that asks for our help. We will do whatever we can social media-wise. We'll do whatever we can. If we need to fly down there, we'll fly down there. But this has to do with the borough trying to put a ban on shooting ranges and noise levels borough-wide. So we're talking a little bit south of Cantwell, all the way past Sutton and Chickaloon. This is an area that is the size of 1 or 2 normal states in the Union, in the continental U.S. And so, this is ridiculous that they're trying to one glove fits all type of stuff when it comes to legislation and borough ordinances and things like that. And the way they've worded this is so very vague and so very convoluted. So all it takes is whichever code officer is on for the day, he can write you up for about anything you do. I mean, if they're going for the decibel level of the noise abatement, they can turn this into building permits that your construction's too loud and you have to file for a special use permit or conditional use permit to even build a house now. And most of this stuff is unzoned because these guys live out in the bush, or not the bush, but out in the boonies a little bit more. I mean, there's only really Wasilla and Palmer, the only real metropolis areas, or not even metropolis, but big cities areas of this. So it doesn't even fit what they're trying to do. And we are settling for nothing but total rejection of every word of their research, of their ordinance, of everything. We are not standing for a rewrite. I will not have any more of our taxpayer dollars wasted on the rewrite or research of this thing when we have way more pressing issues in the borough, such as drugs and property theft and other things like that we need to worry about that far surpass the need over gun ranges.
Now, without getting into too much stuff, I look forward to meeting you. I've got a treatise on arrest and false imprisonment that I'll bring down to you, and will provide every kind of defense you need against these ordinances.
Outstanding.
Just understanding how you stand up for every one of your rights in the Bill of Rights, just how you do that.
Perfect.
And I'll bring that
I've
to
got really good representation. I've got a law firm in Palmer that's kind of aligning with us on some stuff, and I also have connections out of a law firm in Anchorage that is helping us out. And also Vern Roopright. He was the mayor in Wasilla for a while. He was also a lawyer, very, very good defense lawyer. And so he answers my phone calls every time I call. He's the one that's been spearheading all the collection of the information on these things and getting all the paperwork and all the records on this thing. And he's been hammering this thing left and right. So we have amazing legal representation on this stuff, and we're going to win. There's nowhere for them to go on this thing. And it's just the really sad thing. It was only about 15 to 17 people up Palmer Fishhook Road that complained about this. And I don't understand how 15 people can determine or dictate the rights of 106,533 people. So it's I don't know who knows who or what knows what or what kind of special interest is involved with this, but why would they take the word of 15 people in one district to try to steal the rights and impose ridiculous, ordinance rules and regulations on the rest of the borough? It dumbfounds me. It boggles the mind.
Well, it's just big, part of the larger plan. The whole world is under attack right now.
Oh, it is.
By globalist pukes, man. And the fact that, they're trying to do it by ordinances and things like that when they're already burning people out of their homes, burning their countries down to put in these rail systems and allow these mega companies to come in and buy this land for nothing once it's been decimated, because they're looking long term. And that's the same thing they're just eroding everything at the base, It's absolutely insanity, and this is the time to stand. There is no other time. There will be no future left.
Well, Chris, the one thing I want to echo, and I put this on a couple of my videos, this is probably the most pivotal thing anyone listening to this or anyone, garnering any, inspiration from this. The problem is we need to take, I know this is going to sound funny, and bear with me on this. We need to take some of the playbooks from the left. We need to take some of the way they do things and incorporate it into the way we do things as patriots. The problem is most of us get so focal. We're like little pit bulls. We get focal on one little thing and we attack and we hold on to it. So we have, our right to life people. We have our First Amendment people. We have our Second Amendment people. We have our sovereign citizens. We have our other stuff like that they focus on one thing. And the problem is it puts us in factions. Where we have factions, we may be like-minded and we may agree with each other, but we find our one cause to champion and we ignore the rest of them. And so the problem is like I have a big following, and other people pro-lifers have a huge following. Pro-First Amendment guys have huge followings. And so the thing about it is we need to connect with each other, and we need to say what resources we can pool as far as disseminating information and getting stuff out there where people understand this. And it's not like, oh, well, that's that right, and I'm not that worried about that, but my cause is the one I worry about. Everything's a cause. Rights are stripped one by one. They don't do anything overtly, blatant to where we take it all at one big foul swoop. It's death by 1,000 cuts.
That's exactly right.
And so if we keep united and we can get over our pride or our egos as far as our one thing that we want to be heard on, or the one thing we've educated ourselves on explicitly, and can get to the point where we allow each other to help each other and we allow each other to network and unite, that's where we fall short as patriots. That's where we fall short as conservatives or constitutionalists or libertarians. You know, I mean, there should never be infighting. There should never be egos, but that's part of the game. But we have to overcome for the greater good and swallow our pride and say, I may not be 100%, you know, in full agreement with all libertarians. You know, and I'm not. You know, there's certain things I don't believe, like abortion, things like that. I will never, ever, ever concede on that. I will never bend on that. And so it does alienate us on certain things, but we do agree on the Constitution. We do agree on many other things, you know, and you know, it goes back to the enemy, my enemy is my friend. We need to understand that we can help each other, and we don't need to be so focal on one singular point. And that's what's hamstringing us. That's what's crippling us as movements in the U.S. is we need to talk. We need to reach out. We need to network. We need to open up our friend lists and our contact lists and say, hey, scratch our back, we'll scratch yours. You know, we all are in this together. This is a war. I mean, this is a literal war. And the problem is
true.
Right now it's what it is. People are fighting and people are standing up, and Virginia's definitely helped that as far as showing that we can mobilize and we can do things. And we need to keep that momentum in the Patriot movement. The problem is we need to keep the momentum, we need to network, and we need to just stay open-minded to everyone else's cause and validate everyone else's cause, and be united. Just be united patriots. We need to be.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can I comment? Yeah. No.
Yeah,
I really like what I'm hearing. Absolutely. I mean, this is, you know, haven't heard you on our show before, but every Wednesday night we make this platform available for exactly that. And we have a lot to share with you that has come about over the last 10 years. Those simple stuff won't take 10 years to explain it. But we can relate it to you very quickly. I like to help people shorten their learning curve and just get up to speed very quickly if we can. But I'll just share with you that about 10 years ago, we started the Interior Alaska Conservative Coalition to do exactly what you're talking about, to bring people, the pro-life people together, the Oath Keepers together. We had a board, an actual coalition with everybody who was in those organizations sitting on our board. And we've moved away from kind of the political spectrum a little bit and into really understanding how we enforce, just to put it very briefly, how we enforce the oath of office of every one of those people sitting in offices anywhere in our government.
Well, that's exactly what facilitates permanent change. See, we can do these rallies and we can be heard on a one-day basis. But the problem is until we get our voter base mobilized. I mean, I did a whole video on the fact that our last borough election, most areas had a 9% population turnout. That is asinine. That is completely egregious that we are negating and neglecting our right to vote as citizens. And then all of a sudden, this is a funny thing, and I'm going to hurt a little feelings here, and that's fine. I don't really give a shit or care. I'm sorry, excuse my language. I don't really care if I offend people.
What's wrong with the truth?
Yeah, it's one of those things that if you didn't vote, don't open your mouth. You have no one to blame but yourself. So if all of a sudden now everyone's upset and up in arms about this thing, you're to blame. They have a Supreme Court ruling that you cannot be fired from your job for exercising your right to vote. You can't. So, there's no excuses. We need to get our butts up, get off our Netflix, get off our phones, get off whatever distracts us for 1 hour of our day on one day, every 2 years to 4 years, and vote. And if you don't, I don't want to hear your mouth. I actually had a guy that was involved with this thing for 10 months, a little bit ago when I first started this deal, to where he was coming in here and pounding his chest, and he was the crusader for the Second Amendment, and he was going to make sure he was there. And I was calling out people to show up to these community council meetings and stop this in its tracks. We could stop it a long time ago. And I'm not going to name drop, but I called other gun stores in the area, I called stuff like that, and said, hey, we need your help. And no one showed. I had 10 people or 11 people show up, and we were outnumbered by only 4. if I would have had 4 more people show up, we wouldn't be in this situation. And that's one thing that's so important, that if we get and we're proactive and preemptive on our strikes, it costs a lot less. And then we're not fighting for our rights back with lawyers and with other things like that. We're stopping it before it even becomes a law or an ordinance or legislation. And so that's the big key of this. And the scary part is people need to realize that we are on the cusp. And I'm not an alarmist, and I'm not advocating violence by any way, shape, or form, trust me. But we are on the cusp. We're on the edge of a cliff of Plan B. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it some boogaloo thing. Some people call it the reset. Some people call it some fallout. Whatever you want to call it. We are on the brink of Plan B. And if anyone has ever put a bead on another human being or ever had to pull a trigger or put bullets down range, they know better. They know that's the last thing we want, especially within our own country with our own citizens, because it doesn't just affect that. Everyone has this glamorous, glorious view of what it'll be, and it'll all go back to being a utopia of patriots. That's not the case. Think of the infrastructure that goes down. Think of all the other things that happen with people that have diabetes and other people that have medicines they need. When this stuff happens, transport lines go down, other stuff like that goes down, power stuff gets affected to where, people have their idea of their civil fallout and what will happen, but it's not a pretty deal. And also pulling the trigger on another human being is never a good thing. Trust me. I'm not going to get too deep into that part of it, but I'm speaking from experience. So, we are on the edge, and if we stay united and we do this now, and we do affect real permanent changes with these petitions, with the legislation, with getting our voter base out to where we vote out these rhinos and we vote out these special interest people who are only in for their own good and have nothing to do with representing in good faith their constituents, that is the only way we're going to safeguard it for our children and their children. And that's what we have to do. The time has come. The time has come for Plan A to either work by getting off our asses and making something happen, or Plan B, and nobody wants that.
I'd like to make a comment. My name is Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Hi. I support your comments and what you're saying. However, I would like to comment about your concept about voting. Voting in this country, whether it's on a national, state, county, or city level, we're not voting for a delegate. We're voting for a person who's put up either the Republican or the Democratic Party, and in my own considered opinion, there is no difference between the two except the spelling of their names. If a person, or I would like to call them a people, were to get into the political arena, the problem is that they probably won't get elected because the bulk of the populace doesn't understand what the circumstance is, and they think all they have to do is vote for somebody, and that somebody is going to save their ass. It doesn't work that way. And as long as and we don't, the voting system says that you must be, and I don't know where you live. I don't know your name, so I'll just call you Hey Guy.
LD. I live in Palmer. I live in Palmer up by Hatcher's Pass.
Well, what the situation is, as I understand it, is that everyone in this country so far, mostly, is a U.S. citizen. Because if you aren't a U.S. citizen, you're not going to get to vote. And if you're a U.S. citizen, you're a 14th Amendment citizen. You have no rights. We'd like to think we have them, but we don't. And the only people who can vote are going to be voting for either a Republican or a Democrat, and all these people will promise you the moon. It's like I have a little saying here on the wall of my office where I'm sitting. It was Schultz who had this little cartoon section with Linus and the ladies. I forget her name. Hang on just a second.
Linus and Lucy.
Yeah, Linus and Lucy. And they're sitting in this little pictorial shot of on each side. One's on one side of a tree and one's on the other. And she says, "Do all fairy tales begin with once upon a time?" And Linus responds, "No, many of them begin, if I'm elected, I promise."
Now, you said your name is Bill, right?
And the bottom line is amen. Because we don't, until we shift our, not considered opinion, until we shift our political status from that of a U.S. citizen, we have no rights because we are a slave. And we
now, your name is Bill,
we demonstrate that. We demonstrate that. I'm sorry?
You said your name is Bill, correct?
Jim.
Jim, I'm sorry, Jim. Forgive me for that.
That's okay.
Jim, the problem that I'm hearing is, and I'm not attacking you, brother, not one shape or form. The problem is that a lot of people have been in this game for a long time, and they've seen the degeneration of our political system and the degradation of lawyers gutting the Constitution and stuff and feeling that way. But I'm cautioning you on one point is a defeatist mentality. And I mean, I'm a pretty religious guy. I believe in faith and I believe in hope. And I believe that you're unwavering on those things, that it will be God's time when these things happen. And so I understand experience and wisdom come a long ways, but we can't be defeatist. We can't say, well, for 40 years, that's the way it's been. I get it. But that if we keep saying for 40 years, that's the way that's been, then we're going to resign ourselves to repeat history. We are in the point right now, we have so much momentum that we need to make this happen. And part of this deal is what I'm talking about with my movement, other people's movement, is we have not audited and made accountable our people. We have a voice if we work for it. We have to work. We have to be unrelenting and undaunting when in our task of calling people out by name, getting our voices heard. And we're in such a great information age with all the different platforms of social media and other stuff that we can actually put that information out there, and we just have to work on it. It takes a lot of footwork. It takes a lot of time sitting at a computer, which is not my strong point by any means. I'm a gun guy. You know, I build, I sell guns, I shoot, I do other things like that. I am not a computer tech savvy guy. I do the best I can, but we can't have a defeatist mentality. And I understand that, yeah, it's good to learn from history, but it's not good to resign ourselves to the past. And I understand that you've had bad experiences, we all have when it comes to politicians, but we have to believe, we have to have faith that our efforts and that our prayers and that our trials, that they are not for naught. They're not for anything. They're not for nothing. They're for something. And as long as we have that faith, we can move these mountains that we think are impenetrable or immovable. We can. It's the size of a mustard seed is all we need. And that means that we can't have doubt in our hearts. And we can't resign ourselves to the history has shown this, so I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, this is the case. We can make change if we believe in it. Hope and faith are everything, brother.
Well, I'm not sure where that you got from my comments that I was a defeatist, and I think that this is not being accomplished. I wasn't suggesting that at all. I think that we can be victorious, but we have to make some changes in our political status because we don't have rights as Americans. We are 14th Amendment citizens because we are called U.S. citizens. And that is our political status. And as long as we comply with things that like registering to vote, getting a driver's license, paying taxes, all this stuff, you're supporting the fact that you are a slave, you are a 14th Amendment citizen, and you are under the control of the corporations which run this country. So
I think the other thing I would share with you, movement will move. I just think we need a little more traction with it is the problem with it. The sovereign citizen movement is a phenomenal movement. I fully concur and agree with every tenet of it. But I think we have to have more traction with Supreme Court rulings and stuff and give it some validity instead of it. I know the left has done a great job of demonizing sovereign citizens and making us seem like whack jobs, that we're just, weirdos and we're wackos and we're this and we're that. And we have to get through that. We have to punch through that barrier of other citizens who are asleep, who believe everything they've been told by the media and by the government that we are owned, like you said. We're basically slaves to the corporation. That's what our Social Security is. That's what everything else is. That we go into a binding contract that we're part of a corporation, and I understand that fully. We just have to have more traction and more effort to that. That's part of what I was saying earlier about uniting our factions and our causes, where we can have more funding and more resources to fight for that sovereign citizen movement, to where we are heard and we have legal precedent set, real legal precedent set, where we can start doing that.
Okay, can we go ahead and open up the floor to more questions? I'm sure there are people on that have questions and comments.
Sure.
Let's go ahead and speak up if you have a question, please.
Can I speak up?
What is supposed to happen on Friday, date and time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's a rally. It's a Second Amendment rally and protest. It's a rally for property rights as well as Second Amendment rights. And where it is, it's the Matsu Borough Assembly Building at 350 East Dahlia Avenue in Palmer, Alaska. The time is noon to 5, but I'm pretty sure we're going to run a little bit late because we're going to end up doing a march all the way through Main Street in Palmer with our numbers. And that because the borough building's a little bit in the background.
I know the borough building. I graduated in 73 from Palmer High. I'm
Perfect.
one of them. But I'm going to tell you, you need to open that up. If I'm not going to come over there. I'm not going to come over there because I'm old and it's cold and I don't drive the truck. But Second Amendment, open it up to whoever else taking our kids unlawfully.
We're doing that. We're doing
they are doing that. That's my fight against OCS. But open it up to when we were having meetings down at Wasilla Lake, great place, all summer long, every Saturday. And it was great. Bring the kids to get in the lake, and all the patriots showed up. And bring your sign of choice. Some people brought Schaefer Cox signs. Some people brought, I forget there was another group, the group of patriots that brought Chris Ann Hall up here. We were all visiting on the corner. There's not enough of us in any one thing, and everybody wants to, have this cause and have that cause. No, we all got a cause.
Exactly.
Bring them all in.
Actually, the OCS thing, everything like that, I'm in contact.
Speaking of that Chris Ann Hall thing, I'm going to send, I got my envelope ready to mail, and I'm putting those newspapers in it for you, Maria, and about the census newspaper. But also, while I was cleaning off my desk, I found the list of all the patriots that were getting together to bring Chris Ann Hall up here, and I stuck that in the envelope too. So there's that group, and we met them on the corner when we were protesting against OCS. So that's all and I'm going to vote. They don't know if I'm a citizen or I'm not a citizen. I'm not going to explain it to them, but as long as I can vote, I'm going to vote. And I will pick that fight later.
Well, as far as incorporating
other
groups, we're actually including the OCS fight into our fight. We're also including many other groups. Actually, there was another
on
meeting.
that Second Amendment fight. Shame on you, people! You will let them take our kids before you'll get out there with your guns and say you're not taking our guns. Well, they already got our kids. What the hell difference does it make?
Well, ma'am, actually, I'll tell you a little bit about my background, and I normally don't do this. This is not something I usually just throw out there. But actually, in part of my profession, I was a child recovery agent for sex trade and trafficked kids. And that's how I got in touch with Holly, if everyone knows Holly involved with the fight with OCS. So, no, I don't have a blind eye to that fight at all. Actually, I'm being incredibly involved in the state level with this right now. And that's what I'm saying. It's bringing each other together that didn't know about stuff before because we were so focal on one point. And I'm very much involved. I'm very, very much involved with this. And this is what I used to do for a living. That's how my name got dropped to Holly and to another organization with this deal as far as getting kids back by use of force and by use of other means. This is what I used to do for a living. I traveled all around the world bringing back young boys and young girls from this professionally.
But when the state takes them unlawfully, you ain't getting them back.
You might be surprised.
What?
You might be surprised.
Okay, we'll talk on Friday.
We will.
Maria, you could share my story with them.
Yeah, I was going to tell a little bit about Debbie, and I don't have the whole story, but she had a really effective organization and maybe still does, parents and grandparents.
It's on Facebook, but I haven't been there for a while because it's depressing as heck when you get on Facebook. And it is grandparents and parents, Matsu, Alaska. And I think there's about 1,700 people in there. It's an open group. You can go in and just look and see what's going on. I don't go there very much because I'm busy with other things. But my family took the state to federal court, and it was ugly, and it was a big cover-up. And I am so glad that Tammy Wilson is now working for OCS in Fairbanks. Did you hear that? She retired. She stepped down from the legislature, and she went to work up one step above the director.
Adam Crum, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I wanted to bring that up tonight.
And she knows our case, too. And it's like they've got no evidence, no jurisdiction, no nothing. And but they do it to everybody.
Yeah. All right. Debbie, let's see if there are more questions from the floor.
Yeah, and I wanted to say all those things and tell you about what's in the envelope because I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to stay on this phone. I've been doing the what's that thing that we've been watching on TV on C-SPAN? The impeachment.
Oh, the impeachment, yeah.
That thing. Oh boy, you get a real good review of the Constitution in that impeachment. All 9 days of it, and I'm tired, and I haven't got my Kurt and Chris done today because of it. And as soon as I hang up here, I'm going to bed and I'll rest tomorrow. So I'll yield now.
Debbie, if you get a chance to spread the word about what's going on at the Palmer Borough building, is it the Palmer Borough building?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
The Matanuska Susitna Borough. Matanuska Susitna Assembly Borough building.
Okay, so it's the Matsu Borough.
May I make a suggestion for another one of your meetups? If you do Wasilla Lake in the parking lot there, you have a lot of really good visibility, and in your trucks in the parking lot, coming and going, you could just, the people, we loved it there because it was just a lot of visibility. They knew we were there.
I will for sure take that into consideration. That's definitely, like I said, we just have so many things to come. This is just the beginning. We are just starting this fight.
Yep. If you come over here, I can get there. My driving is limited, but I just made a whole new set of signs on my truck, and I got all the old signs. If you want to see my signs and all that stuff, go in that grandparents Facebook group, and we have pictures in there of when we were doing protests and all that kind of stuff. All of those signs are still in my garage, ready to go.
Awesome.
I'm just waiting to get energy. My place of choice is Wasilla Lake.
Gotcha. We had actually some people come up from the peninsula that are coming up to this thing down in Kenai, and I was able to really network a bunch of them together because we had some people that had some mobility issues and other things like that, and some great guys at Dynamic Defense Solutions are giving rides to people from the Kenai up for this event as well. And so I've only been at this for 5.5 days officially on this thing, and so I will be more prepared. We had the timeline crunch of when the deadline was for the comments on this thing, but we will get people to be able to also offer rides and other stuff to mobilize for people who really will truly show up. And I want to encourage anyone that has any desire to show up. If I can facilitate a ride, or if we can get other people who are coming down anyways and they have an empty seat in their truck or in their car, we will make this happen. There's no reason anyone that has that passion, that desire to show up, there's
Everybody
no reason we
does,
can't
but they're too
tired. Well, that's something we need to adjust as a people, isn't it? That's something we need to remedy.
Well, it's easier in the summertime.
No, I fully agree with that.
Okay, can we take some more questions? Anybody else got a burning question out there?
Marie, I'd like to make a comment to this lady, Debbie. She assumes she's talking about the state being able to take children. If she will look, she will find in the records that she registered her children with the state when they were born. Now, she may not have known.
I know that.
Well, then,
that
pardon
situation,
me.
yeah.
Just let me finish, please.
And all that kind of stuff.
Yep. We're all aware of all that, but here we've got to figure out what the solution is. We've spent a lot of time on figuring out the problem, the exact problem, and basically you've been lied to, and you've agreed. You've made agreements with people who are lying to you.
Well, then the latest is 1999 when Judge Gold went and recaptured the flag. He all of our birth certificates as of 1999, there were no more birth certificates after that time. But the state never stopped that fraud scheme.
May I?
Oh, please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, this is Destry. I'd like to speak for a little bit, spread a little wisdom.
Tell me how to mute.
All right.
Star 6.
What? Oh, star 6.
Yeah, star 6. I've been around for quite a while, and I've had rare opportunities to really learn some heavy-duty information. This banker-owned foreign fraudulent corporation that has been in control since Congress walked out sine die 1861 is de facto, which means illegitimate, but in effect. That is a fraud. The whole thing from 1861, after Congress walked out, everything is fraud, and we all know fraud voids the most sacred contract. So this citizenship presumption is fraud. Even to become a citizen, there's 3 things that have to be done. There's a 10-question verbal test, which is followed by a 100-question written test. I've never done it. I don't know if anybody else has. And if anybody claims to be a U.S. citizen, even if one corporate book balancing administrators called a judge claims you to be a U.S. citizen, he's in violation of his own rules of Title 19, Section 911. Now, this banker-owned foreign corporation, you can't be a citizen of something foreign. So there's another fraud. None of us are U.S. citizens. We can't be. Now, I heard something mentioned about Second Amendment. How many people on here realize that federal Constitution and anything within it has absolutely zip to do with people within a state? That applies between states and the federal. That's it. We have in Alaska Article 1, Section 19, right to keep and bear arms. And it specifically says, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The individual right to keep and bear arms shall not be denied or infringed by the state or a political subdivision of the state. You can use that. If you want to fight this corporation that's running Alaska, if you want to address them onto it, use that. Article 1, Section 19. The moment you bring up Second Amendment rights, they're going to laugh at you and run you right over because it has nothing to do with it.
That's something actually we're using right now in our legal verbiage on this deal. Is one of the things also protected in the Constitution of Alaska is the use of those firearms. And so for what the borough is trying to do in trying to stop our use because of noise abatement or other they bring up EPA standards of lead shot and everything else like that. We are using that verbiage against them that the state protects our rights for use of our firearms as well.
Please define firearm.
Anything that uses a projectile, that uses any kind of pressure or gases to send a projectile out of a barrel.
Okay, you're quoting 1934 Firearms Act, Part B. Can you show me where that was ever ratified?
No, I know.
It's never ratified. It's fraud. It doesn't exist.
I agree with everything you're saying. The problem is we have to stay within what people understand, the people who are not woken up. We have to stay within the parameters of legalities that they understand and can actually wrap their heads around.
If you don't help educate the people, you'll never move forward.
Exactly. I fully concur.
So the term firearm was created in 1934 because the DICK Act prevented them, which is H.R. 11654, also known as Separation of Militias Act, prevented any future gun legislation. So they created the term firearm, built a bunch of laws around it, then put propaganda out there to teach the people, to brainwash them into thinking a gun is a firearm when it's not. Same with weapon. Same thing applies.
Right.
Now, because everything after 1861 is fraud on its face, everything. The original Article 13, Title and Nobilities Act, anything after that is fraud. What they did was when they buried that in 1812, they dropped the 14th Amendment down to the 13th, the 15th down to the 14th, and the rest of them they dropped down, which they created after Congress walked out, signed, died, so all of them are fraud. They don't apply. Now, if you go back to 1863, General Order 100 issued by Abraham Lincoln, it specifically stated in there, until the people return to self-governing. The United States military is to run the country. That's what brought in martial law and put us under military labor code, which still exists today. Everything going on here on our land is falling under the military manuals, the Army manuals. Until we return to self-governing, this cannot be corrected. So you want all this done, just like Donald Trump said. He's returned the power back to the American people. Donald Trump said it. Many of his rallies, he supports free assembly. We're being told to get our assemblies done, return to self-governing, nullify that entire corporation, it'll go bye-bye. As stated in American Jurisprudence, Book 38A, page 340, first paragraph, first line. When the de jure grand jury rises, the de facto jury must sit. So we can take this fraudulent monster and we can tear it apart and we can throw a fit about every little fraudulent piece inside it, including the theft of our children, the unlawful forcing of licensing for a tax. I mean, we can spend lifetimes on all that, or we can just take a whole ball of wax, pitch it out the window. I don't know how many people we got on this call, but if we could get 30 people together in one spot here in Alaska, we've got 7 down already. We need 23 more. We can bring forward our settlement of Alaska. The people have never settled it. We can bring forward our covenant, which is a higher document than a constitution. We can nullify this corporation. We can do it with 30 people. Our problems will go away.
This is how we get cross-sectional come-togetherness, I think. I mean, we should be. Yeah. This is somewhere where we need to be supporting the assemblies for sure.
Do we have a militia like we used to have?
No.
I mean, the militia, the way it's supposed to be, the people's militia. Do we have one of those? And second question with that is, if, for example, if the militia could meet once a week or once a month, they can do more than have a turkey shoot. They can act as those representatives that we have to bring back and rise up so that we can run our own governments. There's a militia in the States in New York that they're trying to multitask, kind of like bringing all the patriots together with all of their grievances. Well, the militia is a good place to start. Where are those people?
We're all here. The militia is defined as all able-bodied men between the ages of 17 and 45.
Okay, well, you just...
That's unorganized militia.
Right. We used to have an organized militia, didn't we?
Yeah, can I make a few comments?
Yeah,
here?
I yield. I'm going back to mute.
Yeah, the last time... go ahead, who's that? Was there another comment there? Okay. So kind of just to bring some of this together in the spirit of unity, and I know that I heard Luke talking about unifying and making sure that we're coming under, that we're all reaching out and working together. There was a Second Amendment task force here, but there are 13 or 14 militias in the state of Alaska. I don't care what you call it. I don't care if it's an assembly, a Second Amendment rally, a Task Force Alaska. Some people call it Sovereign Citizens Movement. I have a problem with that terminology. I've written to the governor, told him to stop allowing his officers to use that terminology, stop allowing his officers to put us on the Sovereign Citizen National Database. However, so the point is what Luke said earlier, what Chris is always working at, what now Debbie was working at it on one issue. If we are defined as U.S. citizens, and that's fraud, where does that leave us? It leaves us exactly where we started out at. We're the people. We come together as the people. We enforce our common law, our basically our fundamental form of government as written under the Declaration of Independence, under the Bills of Rights. The Bills of Rights in the federal Constitution, that's the common law. The Bills of Rights in our state constitutions, that's the law governing the peoples of the states. We come together and enforce those rights, and we cut the learning curve way, way short. The only thing we have to know is what our Bills of Rights say, and the only thing we have to do is teach each other how to hold them up. And don't worry about your civil status. Don't worry about your political status right off. The purpose is that we understand our fundamental form of government, and anybody, anywhere who tries to alter our fundamental form of government is engaged in a declared act of tyranny. We uphold our Bills of Rights, and we help each other do that. And I think that's really what the solution is going to be. When we can get into some of the details about settling our assemblies and the juries and all of those things. But the first thing we need to do is really educate each other on how important those Bills of Rights are. And I yield.
Amen.
I agree fully.
And I think that's what we're coming together this weekend to do.
Absolutely.
So really looking forward to it.
In the right direction, yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Pirates. That's what we're fighting is pirates.
Yeah,
Absolutely
they're all pirates.
Right.
Possession by piracy does not change ownership. It's just possession. We
and
still own
appreciate all.
And fraud vitiates also. Who are we? We're exactly what our Creator made us to be. We've never changed. We've never changed from what He created. He created man in His image. He gave us said, take dominion. That's what we're doing. It's so simple. But boy, did it take a long time to figure that one sentence out. A long, long time. So, yeah. And I open up the floor for all the, questions, comments.
All right. This is Destry. Back in 2013, when I had the Coast Guard in the courtroom going after the judge for inland piracy. Boy, that was an experience. But if you're ever asked if you consider yourself a sovereign citizen, tell them, no, I'm not a slave to a corporation, and I'm not God. It's an oxymoron. What you could state yourself as is a sovereign monarch. We are all created in our Creator's image. He is the king. Therefore, we are all kings. We are all sovereign monarchs. I yield.
Okay.
No, this has been incredibly informative. I've actually been. This is great. I mean, I'm everything I'm hearing, I'm loving, and I just would love to stay in contact with you all, so we can. I guess I can educate myself even more. I mean, this is something I need to be more proactive in and push towards, for sure, with my connections down here as well. But I think the whole point of this country was to be, it was the first experiment of self-governance and self-regulation, and we've allowed ourselves, through whatever means we've had it come through, to forget that and to openly and willingly give up our rights. And everything that's been said is exactly how we need to take them back, and I fully agree.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah. I've got to just reiterate the same thing, man. I'm looking forward to coming down there and seeing your big ugly mug again, man. Because it looked a lot like mine. And
it's beard power, brother. It's all beard power. That's what keeps me rolling.
That's exactly right, man. Yeah, but yeah, we definitely got a lot of stuff going. So, man, anything, as you know, we're all coming into fullness, right? But and Destry's really right. A lot of the things that he's been working on. He's been he's a statesman that will be recognized in the future. If you catch my drift,
of knowledge. I mean, Dusty is a plethora of knowledge. He needs to expand his listener base by far and wake people up. We need to red pill as many people as possible. We need to wake them up and get them out of their brainwashed, sheepish mentality that is so damning to all of our causes. That's the necessity to all this. And Dusty, I can't even imagine the hours upon hours. I applaud you and compliment you, my friend, on how much you know. I'm a little dumbfounded. I feel completely inadequate now in this conversation.
No, man, we're all learning. But he's right too. So I mean, if there's any way that you can direct people, as we're letting people know things, we're coming together. This is the assembly, our true state governmental assembly, is powerful. I look at all sorts of different angles from how we're coming together, and like she said, I've really been working hard to try to bring a lot of groups together, from the OCS different groups to the media to the within the state, and a lot of stuff is it's looking beautiful because people are coming into that fullness. But as we form these groups, we can't be controlled under their corporate, because that's what they're doing with these games. Is okay? They're getting us to fight within a corporation where they have the corporate monopoly. Basically, they can come in and do whatever they want to do, legitimately under their corporation rules that stands in international law if we fall into that trap. We need that threat of power, but we've got to be able to go in there and surgically cut out the cancer without killing this whole patient. And this assembly is a great way to do that. So I just, I pray in my heart that, maybe you can, since you're starting to get more of a voice too, is maybe kind of push people that way to, whether they're ready or not to join. If they come to these calls on Wednesday or go to the National Assembly calls on Thursday night, they're going to learn so much. I can't even tell you how much I've learned, just listening.
I absolutely will get the word out that people need to hear this. And, I was gonna hit on the comment. I don't know which woman brought up the militias. The problem is we had the militias demonized for so long, and the Clintons were so very good at this with Ruby Ridge and Waco and things like that people were scared. I was actually in Oregon when Lavoy Finicum was murdered. And, and to watch some of the 3%er groups and some of the other groups like that ended up not mobilizing. And I thought that was the kickoff. When I got the news, I got it via text message from someone that was at the compound saying it's on, it's done, he's dead. And I was like, I actually rushed home from my business, and it was time to, I thought it was time to arm up and load up. And the amount of people that left, the militias have to stop having a negative connotation that the MSM and the other politicians have afforded that right of ours to assemble and to keep the checks and balances in this nation and having free men stand up for ourselves and for our rights. We need to stop looking at militias as being, crazy guys with their plate carriers on and violent guys or whatever that they want to attribute to us, and go to and introduce people into it. Not like, I think she said, you don't only need to be turkey shoots. That's the thing, is get out of that, get into the education part of the militia, like what Dusty has. If he could just sit there, if we could assemble and just have him help educate people on this stuff, as well as prepare and train and things like that. Those are important things. A lot of our guys that are hooked up with the militia groups have already had formal training or things like that, and so we get so pigeonholed into that. Also, that kind of goes back to what I said about being so focal on one thing. We're so focal on the gun part of it and not into the education part of it, where we can bring people into it that don't think it's just a weekend warrior, thump my chest, play with guns, and then go home again thing. It's actually a necessity. It's a necessity for free men to be able to assemble and to be trusted by the citizens of the same area that militia is representing, to champion causes for freedom and rights and preservation of liberty.
Absolutely.
I have another thought on that militia idea. That turkey shoot thing wasn't such a bad idea. They organized every Saturday afternoon, and they all showed up with their guns, and they did their prizes, and they had their meetings, and it was at the American Legion, just a couple miles outside of Wasilla. The Vets Clubs, the American Legion, they are ready group of patriots. But I was thinking about this. Maybe somebody should go talk to them and say, incorporate your Saturday turkey shoots into reviving the militia and getting that bad juju out of the public's thing. Bring it back in a positive light, and we'll just disguise it as a turkey shoot for a while.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea.
Or we have members within a community get together and have a community watch. Call it a community watch.
Right.
And actually go out there and stop
every week or every month was the thing with the American Legion. It was every week, every Saturday. And that's how come I got to know about that, because my mom and her husband went to it, and they'd win lots of meat, turkeys and hams and stuff, and it was a big deal for a while. And that's one way you could revive the militia, with a group of people that are already gun savvy and serious about it.
Well, I think it's a good step in that deal, is that we're actually making connections now. We're putting faces and names of faces and voices, because it's a big part of that too, is knowing that with these groups and with these militias that I know you have my 6 and I have yours. And so that trust has to be not only the trust of each other, of the people participating in these groups, but the trust of the community to say, if we bring you a cause to champion or to fight for, that we trust that you will see it through. And so that's a big part of us talking right now, is saying, I don't know Dusty. He doesn't know me from Adam. I mean, that's just what it is. And so we have to open up these communications and say, this is what I truly believe. This is what is in my heart. This is my passion. And meet up with each other and shake each other's hands and work together so that we know we can trust each other, instead of just saying, yeah, I like putting on my gear and going putting bullets downrange. And so, that there has to be communication. We have the utmost open channels of communication we've ever had in this nation's history. Why not use them? Why do we shy away from that, to where we get to know each other enough where we have that trust from the community as well as trust with each other?
Brother, we're in the year of 2020, and that in some people's books means perfect vision. And as we come together, each one of us has one person's perspective. And thinking that if you're looking out of one eye, you lose depth perception, right? But when you have multiple points of reference, you have depth perception. And that's what we're doing. When we're combining these groups, each one of us have a special skill set that we bring forward and is valuable, as long as we're all willing to understand it and listen and give it a chance to sink in, to come in and bring our view in fullness.
I got a question.
Yep.
What was John F. Kennedy's most famous quote?
Ask not what your man
Ask not what you can do for your country.
Ask not what you can do for your country.
That's not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Bingo.
Yep.
I
win. It was mentioned earlier, if we're not U.S. citizens, then what are we? We are settlers on an unsettled land. How do we settle that land? We follow our founding fathers' footsteps and do what they did. Nothing new. We start in our local communities. We get together with a small assembly in our local communities. We send representation forward to a larger community level or county or borough, and bring forward what our local communities all want by majority vote. When the boroughs come together, send representation forward to state level, and they carry that vote forward. The power comes from the local communities. That's where it's all at.
That's it.
Like God said, no false gods before me.
Speaking of that, the individual bringing stuff forward, something I want to make people aware of. As of yesterday at 5 p.m., the very first petition of redress and remonstrance in the history of the state of Alaska was mailed into the state of Alaska. I made what's that?
Good job.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Well, we'll see.
I did want to bring that up. If I can go next when you're finished, I wanted to just bring that up before we get off the call tonight. A little bit of background on what you're talking about.
Yep. I was definitely wanting Luke to know about this, because this is something you guys and you should let maybe everybody on Friday know about. It's not because I'm bringing this forward. It's because everybody needs to know this. This is how we deal with these. This is the court of justice. This is where we do it. And this is where we need to put the pressure to make them understand they're not going to cheat us of the rights that we have as men and women to deal with them in their corporate capacity, and to hold them legitimate to where we get our redress, we get compensated for damages caused us, and we get those fired that causes harm. That's why right now none of these people ever go to jail. Clinton, any of these people. They're all part of an association. And until they're kicked out of that association, they can't be touched because they're part of a private membership association, which is backed by the Supreme Court. People need to realize that. As we bring these, this is kind of the first go. This is the one building up to when we start sending them in for OCS for the children. This is the one that makes it easy for them to understand because they're simple damages. They've admitted to the wrong. We establish the process, and then we start hitting them. We're going to start firing these things off. But we need to have discussion. We need to have awareness behind it as well. And, if need be, we need to have a show just like was going to happen on Friday. People standing up. You will obey your masters. Period. And we are your masters. God created us. We created government. Government created citizens. It's an upside-down pyramid. And that's what they need to understand.
Chris, did you watch my last video?
No, I didn't. I don't have Facebook, brother.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's part of my last video is I actually name-dropped everyone on the assembly and told them, from my intel, people I know inside the assembly and other things like that have told me which way that people are likely to vote. I called out their district. I showed exactly what they represent. I called them out by name, and I told them explicitly, if you're not going to listen to constituents, we are going to vote you out. We're going to audit you from now on. We're going to hold you accountable from now on, and people will hear it. And then the nice thing, too, is the funny thing about this whole deal is if they push this through even above us, there are channels to go through. We can require it to be on a ballot issue, which actually puts an injunction against what they're trying to do. And with how passionate people are about these ideas and these principles of our freedom, our voter turnout is going to be much, much greater than it normally is because people are fired up about this. And we will have the chance to get rid of it, to fire them from firing their position. We put them there, we pay them, we employ them, we are their masters. Now we need to hold them accountable and audit everything they do. And like you said, start calling them out. They are protected. They're a good old boys club that look after each other, and no one's ever prosecuted. Now there's only really two options to do this, is either to call them out, to audit them, to get rid of them, and they might still sit back like little puppet masters and pull their strings, and we'll audit that again, and we'll do it again. The only option is do it by force. And I hope we don't go there yet, but if we do, we'll know when that time comes. We will.
All right.
I got a question.
So, a different option. Destry, you want to go ahead first, and then I just want to talk about where we find redress, where we're coming up with the idea. Okay, go ahead.
Many people are aware of the three branches of government the corporation's using, which is executive, legislative, and judicial. But does anybody on this call know what the 5 branches are?
Talking about the Bar Association?
The grand jury, the legislature, judicial, and the executive in that order.
That's 4. Anybody know what the 5th one is?
Man is on the top.
The man.
The people.
Yeah.
The grand juries is the 4th branch, and the people is the 5th branch.
Oh, I thought they were both the same. The people and the grand jury.
Nope. When does a grand jury exist?
When people populate it.
A grand jury only exists when it's needed. When it's not needed, what do you have? You have an assembly.
Okay,
they bring their guns and call them a militia.
The people in assembly is militia.
Right. We need to learn to multitask.
But we operate under the Article 1. We have the right to peaceably assemble. We've been challenged, and we've passed. We've been challenged by the
If
Fed.
you're going to be working with the Matsu Borough, could you please talk them into making their elections in step in time with the state and national elections? They hold their elections a month off from in October, and it is really out of step. And I really wanted to vote when they were putting in the police powers, and I watched that, and just about 700 people voted that in. So then they got police powers. Check that one out.
That doesn't sound like a democratic proportion of the people that live there.
No.
I think so, but it was really, in fact, when I was, let me look and see if that's the one I had.
Lawfully, each community makes its own rules. Each county makes its own rules. Each borough makes its own rules, do what they want when they want. That's sovereignty. For another county or another borough or another community to go in and tell them they need to change it, that's not the American way.
They make it really hard to vote as far as dates and times.
Yeah. Yeah, that's because they're a bunch of pirates in a banker-owned foreign corporation.
Walmart sets the schedule that they like.
Yep, that's right. There ain't nothing we can do about it.
Believe it or not, that's actually kind of played into our favor for certain things with some of these petitions that we're going to affect real change. The nice thing is according to the bylaws and the charter of the borough, we only need 15% of the population that came out to vote for the last mayoral election. And as far as my calculations come out, that only equals out to 1,133 signatures I need to get signed on. We have 4 petitions so far. We're writing a 5th. And as long as I get 1,133 signatures on these petitions, it is required that it has to be a ballot issue. And so we are using, I guess, the inactivity and whatnot to our advantage because we don't have to go get 40,000, 80,000 signatures. We're able to do it with 1,133. So we are using some of these tactics or some of this misfortune to our advantage and turning around from a bad thing into a good thing down here.
Boy, it's surprising you need so many signatures when only 56 people signed the Declaration of Independence. Did a whole country.
I'm not disagreeing one bit.
But
I just found that what I was talking about, I just pulled this out of the trash because I was cleaning off my desk. Now I'll send it to Fairbanks in this envelope that it has open. But in the last election, it was October 2nd, 2018, and one of their proposals on page 16 says, should the Matsu Borough consider steps to propose voters to add police powers to its responsibilities? And that's the only thing I could watch, and they got a whopping 700 people voted for it. And now the borough had police powers. So I'll just throw this little book in this envelope that's headed north.
I would like a copy of that. Actually, I can go get it. Never mind, I can get it. I'll go to the borough and get it.
Well, is that coming up to me, Debbie?
Matsu Borough regular election brochure, October 2nd. So
Write
it
that
was
down.
2 years ago.
Is that envelope you're filling up coming up to me?
Yep.
Oh, okay, cool.
And
all right.
That whole paragraph reads, the Matsu Borough does not have police powers. Without police powers, it cannot contract with the state troopers or city police coverage and blah, 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 blah. Should any future plan to obtain police powers will require additional voter approval, should the Matsu Borough investigate and consider steps to develop a proposal to voters that adds police powers to its responsibilities. And that passed. So, yeah, I'll throw it in the envelope.
We're trying to get something done down here also to have an elected, basically a borough sheriff, to where we're represented by our constituents as far as having a police power that way.
That's
huge.
Constable.
Yeah, that's huge because everything we've talked about tonight, everything has one common factor: no enforcement.
No, that's the scariest part about Alaska is we don't have.
That is, absolutely.
We don't have elected law enforcement officers. We have appointed law enforcement officers that are controlled by bigger entities.
Judges are supposed to be elected.
Yeah, that's the other problem we don't have. And so that's that's actually the second petition we first did right off the get-go, was to get an elected law enforcement official that has jurisdiction over the borough, that can ask for assistance if needs be from state troopers or Palmer PD or Wasilla PD or whatever, but there will be one elected law enforcement official over the borough-wide, and that's something we are petitioning for to be on a ballot, so we give the control back to the constituents and back to the people as far as it goes with law enforcement.
That's why we need to get Alaska settled so we can elect our offices. We can bring in our constables. We can set our county lines. We can elect our sheriffs. We can have our justices of the peace.
I'd be happy, temporarily, I'd be happy with a U.S. Marshal right out of Anchorage.
Well, he's still a corporate. He's a corporate.
He still is, but he'll do for enforcement until something comes along.
We've called out to them and they ignore. They're owned.
Oh yeah, yep.
Let's get Alaska settled and do it ourselves. Only the people have the power.
30 people. 30 people. How hard should that be? But we've been pulling out teeth trying to educate and get people to say, you know what, that sounds like me, you know.
Well, like I mentioned on this call before, there's a whole lot of people sitting on fences. They can yammer up a storm, whine and cry and complain, but none of them want to get off that fence, get their hands dirty, and do what needs to be done.
Okay, can I talk about, before we get off the phone, can I talk a little bit about where you're getting this idea of redress, Chris?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so, and Debbie's aware of it. She goes to the class. I'll tell you the YouTube channel is Kirk's Law Corner. You can go through his 8-episode series, and he's just teaching you our basic fundamental law. But if you just read the First Amendment again, you haven't read it in a while. We know it's there. It's about free speech. But read through that First Amendment again, and you'll see that you have the right to petition to call into assembly and petition your government for the redress of grievances. And okay, sorry about that. I'll get on the phone rather than speak through the speaker. So just read through your First Amendment, and anybody who disagrees that you have the right to petition your government and redress for grievances, we called the state legislature to the chief clerk's office on the advice of Gus Breton, who's had a website for years, ever since I have known him in New Hampshire. It's called New Hampshire Redress. And he also has now a site called Redress for Dummies. And that's all of us Americans out here, the dummies. We didn't read our First Amendment.
Redress for Dummies is his website?
Redress in the numeral 4, Dummies. Spelled with the I-E-S. Yeah, Redress for Dummies. He's also working with Kirk's Law Corner and with Chris Hallett out of Florida. They started a company called E-Clause. That means he's referring to the emoluments clause in the Constitution, and we can get into that later. But the bottom line is, as Chris is doing with his simple claim that the state of Alaska pushed his hugel bed gardens into his catchment pond, and that cost him $50,000 to build. So he's taken his claim of redress into the state legislature through the chief clerk's office of the House of Representatives, saying, hey, Department of Forestry, your company, this Department of Forestry, pushed my gardens into my catchment pond. This is how much it cost me to build, so this is how much you owe me now. He's lucky, or he's fortunate, or he's blessed by the fact that they admitted to it. They've already admitted to it. He did the FOIA requests. He wrote up an affidavit of truth. And so this is something we had not been aware of until this character out of Florida figured this out, that we have the right to redress our grievances in the courts of justice. The courts of justice are in the legislature, not in the courts of law. So the key terms I just wanted to leave you guys with tonight, especially you, Luke, was redress, and that comes with how much you want to be paid back to be made whole, and remonstrance. And remonstrance is a written formal protest of something that one of the levels of government, either be the borough or whoever, they're proposing to do something that's unlawful. It's against our fundamental form of government. It's against our common law, which is the Bills of Rights. And you write up a written protest and put it into the Court of Justice in the legislature, and you tell them to cut it out. And you use your simple logic, just the simple logic, and just write it up in a affidavit of truth and tell them to stop. And
no,
we haven't been doing it.
I do have a question. You guys can educate me on this. I need it. Now, as far as redress with this stuff, whether it be financial or whatever else like that, doesn't the legislature, can they pretty much say, we're not going to put it in the budget, so you're not going to get paid, and they more or less stonewall ever getting anything actually done for that, or am I incorrect on that? I'd like to be clarified.
Well, no, they can't. They've caused a loss, and they're a business. So you're going to the business and you're making a claim of loss. It's like when you file a claim with the insurance company for your car. Okay. They are bonded. They're bonded to do business in your state. So it's going to go against their insurance. Now, the reason that this came about was a loss prevention company. The guy in Florida started a loss prevention company. So we can talk a little bit more about why that is really effective here. But the bottom line is it allows the state of Alaska, to distance itself from some of its employees that have gone outside their job descriptions. Maybe the cop shot somebody in the head. So now the state's not liable.
Right.
So it's a motivation for the state to distance itself from the bad actors in the state. So if you can imagine a bad actor in OCS,
right.
You know, one bad actor is the state distances themselves from this one bad actor. What kind of repercussions is that going to have through the whole department? You know, one family gets redress for everything they've lost. What kind of repercussions would that have to clean up the rest of the department?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's it. That's it in a very small nutshell. I'm sure there's more to it, but Chris has got his, you know, like you said, the very first one going into Alaska, and it's a simple one. The first day, Chris was sitting at my dining room table when I called the chief clerk's office, and I said, tell me the rules and the procedures that you have in place to accept petitions into the chief clerk's office. And she scrambled. And I said, look in your Mason's manual, and here's the section I believe we're looking at, 148. And she said, okay, let me get back to you. And she was back to us within an hour. She said, I've talked to the Department of Law. She didn't say Department of Law. She said legal department. And they said they have confirmed, yes, you have both the federal right and the constitutional right to redress. And I said, okay, tell me your rules and procedures that you have in place that I can follow that will allow me to send one of these in. And she says, we don't have any procedures. Nobody's ever done this. So she said, send it in and we'll tell you what the procedure is. So we're not really comfortable with that. We're going to tell them what the procedure should be.
Right.
But Chris has sent that in, and we're waiting for them to come back. And when that comes back, they'll say we can't because of this, and we'll say no, you have to because of that. And we'll work through it so that there is a real procedure happening in this state that will open it up to other people that are at least educated enough. Now, you don't need an attorney. You don't need to be lawyerly. You don't need anything. It's just a common sense situation. Total common sense.
Is this the 30 people you all were talking about?
No. It has nothing to do with it. Well, I'm sure it's related in some way. I can't think of the relationship, but this is actually for those of us, who have declared that we're state nationals, okay? That's the real definition of an Alaskan is claiming the nationality, that our nationality is with this state, not citizenship. And that's a long discussion.
Gotcha.
But my thinking is whether you be a citizen of the state of Alaska or whether you be an Alaskan, just always use the terminology Alaskan, all Alaskans. You'll see the governor use this terminology. Just call yourself an Alaskan and make your claim based on the fact that you're an Alaskan, you live here. And so these guarantees, these rights they have to abide by apply to you, even in their legalistic view. But don't think about attorneys. Don't think about giving your power away to someone else to do this for you. This is something each man or woman has to do for their own family. You can't hire someone to do this for you.
I've watched some videos on some of this stuff. I have watched some videos on I think there was a gentleman in North Carolina that did this and a few other things like that, and it opened up a huge storm for him, and he's still stuck with it. I mean, I applaud him for his deal, but yeah, I've seen a few videos of people who have done this, and it's one of those deals where it's a rabbit hole, and you're going to go down, and it's going to be messy. But if you don't relent and you just stick with it, it comes out better in the long run from everything I've researched into that.
Yeah, rather than a court of law, you mean, as opposed to a court of law?
Right.
Yeah, I believe so. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a process where we teach the state the process, but that really is up to us to do.
Gotcha.
May I?
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Destry. Luke, anybody else on this call, our assembly does have a website.
What is that?
AlaskaDejure.org. It will forward you to AlaskaDrillAssembly.org.
Now, say it one more time. I'm sorry, I'm writing this down. You kind of went fast. I have really bad hearing in my right side.
Alaska Dejure, DEJURE.org.
Okay. Alrighty. I will spread the information.
Thank you. I yield.
Yeah, I'll bring a couple of copies as well, Luke, whenever I come down to hand out a copy of the redress so people can kind of get a feel of exactly what it is. And I also put out a notice. I started putting it out on the notice boards here, but if you're aware, the census manager for the state of Alaska has came out and said he was going to trespass on every one of us. And basically, we're putting up a notice of liability against them and making it known that any trespasses we will hold them personally accountable. And anyway, so it's a pretty good deal, and I'll bring a couple of copies of that so we can share it about.
Well, I'm already done reading the first page on this thing. I'm on this.
Well, there's going to be several members there, and we can swear people in when we're there.
Chris, take
Very
some
cool.
member docs with you.
Yep.
It looks like I'm going to have to, Dusty and Chris, you both are in Fairbanks, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
North
Yeah, I'm going to have to make a drive.
My door's always open, brother.
Awesome. My wife's been wanting to head up there anyway. She wants to check out Fairbanks, so I guess we'll have to make sure that the kids stay home with the dogs and we come up there and meet all you great people and I get more of an education. I feel severely inadequate right now.
Well, I'm in North Pole. That's before you get to Fairbanks.
Well, she wants to go there especially because she wants to go to Christmas Town and all that stuff like that. So that's always been something she's hounded me about it since we moved here.
Well, plus we'll be be down this Friday and.
Yeah, thank you. It's been really nice getting to know you tonight.
Well, it's been great. Like I said, I got a lot. I have a ton on my plate as it is. I've only been sleeping about an hour and a half a night trying to get caught up with all this stuff. But now I got a lot more on my plate to do some research and educate myself to this stuff for sure.
You'll learn not to raise your hand too much.
Yeah, we've all been slapped.
You can't raise your hand till your work is done. I highly recommend Shelley Wyatt's YouTube channel, that Midnight Sun, that gal up in Fairbanks.
Midnight Sun is the name.
Yesterday, she put up the governor's State of the State address, and it was really good. I felt like they were calming themselves down, but he had some guests. One of them was that man, Schaefer, I think was his last name, not Schaefer Cox, but he had gone to the, he was local, and he'd gone to the Supreme Court for his hunting grounds being,
oh, yeah, John Schaefer or something like that.
Yeah, John, I remember that, yeah. So he was one of the guests. Anyways, it's about 30 minutes, and it's on Midnight Sun's YouTube channel, Shelley Wyatt, and she is up in Fairbanks. So I've been watching her, and we're long overdue for an Alaska YouTube channel, and she does really good. So I was encouraged to hear what the governor had to say yesterday.
Well, I do you one better. More than likely, she's going to be with us, so probably Saturday or Friday night she'll be staying in your house there, Luke.
Outstanding.
Oh, good. I just mailed her an envelope today when I was cleaning off my desk, and I says, "This looks like it belongs at your house." I mailed her one, too. So
Debbie, I just want to say, Debbie, we got in touch with her because of your recommendation, and she's coming to our common law group, or at least she did to the first one. So, yeah. So
I told you she'd be good.
Yeah.
Don't work her too hard. You don't want to wear her out. Hello?
Yep, we're still here.
Oh.
Yep. No, she's good. She's really nice, and I imagine if you saw over the last 2 weeks since she met up with us, she's been covering a lot more things about OCS and the child stuff. Yep.
Yes, I was highly encouraged about that. So.
Well, excellent. Well, does anybody have anything else pressing that we should talk about tonight, or are we going to convene until Friday when we put faces together?
That sounds like a plan. That sounds like a plan. And we'll put this out on YouTube before, well, no, it won't be before we go. But soon, so you can kind of review it if you need to.
Maria, is there a link that, like if he put it up on Facebook, that way the link would take him directly into the free conference call to be able to hear it versus going through YouTube until it gets there?
No, there's not a link. There's a, and it's a phone number, and you can listen to the last show, but I can put that information out. I'll go ahead and find that information again and put that out there.
Awesome.
I'm hanging up. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, Deb.
Bye, Debbie. God bless.
Well, safe travels, everybody. Keep your spirits up. Keep your energy up. Our Father has said to stand until He returns, and that's what we're doing, so praise God. Look forward to seeing you all on Friday.
Yep. Oh, the recording for this call should be accessible if you use the same phone number, just the last digit turn from a 1 to a 9.
Check the recording. Okay. Gotcha.
What is it your governors can do? How is it that we have come to thinking and believing that anyone has more to say than you? Stand up, sing your song. Let us know the wisdom of your heart, that you belong, that we belong to you, that you belong to us, and that our love is all untrue. Take that first step and commit to take a chance. Believe, just relax, 'cause no one ever died of trying to take the music back. Just leave it to them others to excuse. Well, state your heart, be yourself. Help us understand as you and everybody else. I'll take a breath and I'll see it through. You know that I am more myself when I'm standing up for you. Is it that we don't see the pain which we exchange for circumstance made easy to believe in, where everybody's loss becomes a gain? Come forth, reach out your hand, be your brother's keeper this one time. Say he belongs, say we belong to him, that he belongs to us, and that our love is all and true.